Great. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the October 22nd meeting of the Allen County Public Library Board of Trustees. We are streaming again today, and I am the only board member present in the room today. So we will do our best. That's just so all the board members are aware on there to make sure we can communicate with one another today, and we'll be patient and make sure that you indicate if you have comments, obviously, to make sure we catch everybody's comments and everybody's thoughts on things. With that, I would like to also today have roll call votes for everything on that. So Sharon, I just want to make sure you're ready for that.
Yes, sir.
Proceed. So if you want to go ahead and do roll call for attendance.
Absolutely will. Let me get my little piece of paper here. And we will start with, of course, you are here, present, Kent. Ben?
Present.
Paul?
Present.
Marty?
I'm here.
Gloria? Gloria?
Gloria is absent.
Okay. James? Jim?
And James is absent at this time.
I don't see Jim either. Okay. And myself.
Okay, thank you. We'll move forward with the adoption of agenda.
I would move the adoption of the agenda as written.
So second.
Okay, I have a motion by Ben and a second by Marty. Any questions or changes, additions? I'll move for a roll call vote, please.
Roll call to accept the agenda. Kent?
Aye.
Ben?
Aye.
Paul? I'm sorry, Paul, I didn't hear you.
You're on mute, Paul. Aye. Sorry.
Okay, thank you, no problem. And I was looking down too, I'm sorry. Marty?
Aye.
Aye for Sharon.
All right. Moving forward with the approval of the minutes. The minutes were sent out on the board packet for regular session September 24th and the claims for October 10th. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, a motion from Marty and a second from Ben. Move forward with a roll call vote, please.
Kent?
Aye.
Ben?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
Marty?
Aye.
Sharon? That's 602.
All right, thank you.
Or excuse me, 502.
Thanks, Ken. And I'm using a new mic today, so hopefully everybody can hear me a little better. And
Yes.
Perfect. Glad I've got that concert mic going on here, so I'll try not to jump in and start singing.
We'll wait for the
David,
Yeah,
David, we can hear you. Now it's the quality of your content.
that cannot be improved, unfortunately, with technology. There's nothing to help that. Yeah, you're stuck with me. Sorry. Anyway, as far as the financial report, your packet contains the reports. The only line to report on this month is computer services. That's related kind of to last month's report that I had on the databases, audiobooks, etc. A lot of the computer services are, stretching their budget limits at this time. We'll need to move some money in. Just because we've had, in this case, new programs, new services that we're getting. This line has a lot of what we use for cataloging, all those new materials being purchased for the ebooks, audiobooks, etc. like that have to be cataloged. The services go up on that. So we'll move some money in on that at the end of year adjustments if we need to. The only other things to report as far as the budget lines, everything else is staying well below spending benchmarks. Again, the closure had affected most of that, like I've reported in the past. Main thing we're working right now and what will be taking place later in the agenda is, of course, the budget, the 2021 budget. Your packet contains materials on that, and the actual form that will be approved and signed, well, hopefully approved and signed. We'll get that filed with the state. We had the public hearing, as I noted in the report. We did not have anybody attend, and there's been no filing of any comments by the public. So at this point, we're clear to move forward with the filing as it is. And again, to remind you that is taking our levy, we're increasing the budget by the 4.2% that we're allowed to in order to capture the rate and the levy accordingly. Those final figures, the final rates and levies will be determined by the DLGF at the end of the year. They still have county-wide information that has to come as far as assessed value and all those kind of things. So, but our part of it would be finished as of now. So we would submit that for approval. And then the only other thing to report on, again, I'm not going to say a lot about it because Denise and Marty will talk later, is the Capital Projects Committee. We met on Monday, went over some of the ways to progress on that, and they'll have a good report for you on that. But those are the main things financially happening, but I'd be glad to entertain any questions on the financial report at this point.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Marty, I'm sorry, Dave, I see that the, looking at the historical spending, our supplies are below 50%, which of course is because we were closed, so we wouldn't have to have them. Would that, moving funds out of that help with the shortage that we see in our computer technology area?
Absolutely, and that's one of the things that we would look at. We'll take those adjustments in December is when we traditionally bring them in, and that's one of the prime lines that would contain that. Big part of the supplies is because the summer learning program, which, had that curtailed or abbreviated thing that they, went through this summer that they had to because of COVID. So there's still a lot of money left over in the programming supplies and things like that. And that's where we would first turn to augment some of those lines that are overspent because of the COVID in the other lines.
And I know that we're also, many of the municipalities, trustees areas, they are receiving some of the CARES dollars. Do we anticipate the library receiving any CARES funds?
We do not. When we looked at this earlier, and I have one of my accountants that's keeping a track on that, it's really more of your statewide, local cities and towns where those dollars are being able to flow. If there were additional expenditures due to payroll and stuff like that, that tied to the COVID-19. We, of course, while we had our mandatory close, we continued to pay salaries, but we didn't incur more salaries on that or anything in addition to that. So there really wasn't at this point anything that the CARES would fund, the CARES Act would fund. However, obviously, if you've seen the news, I mean, there's a second phase of that coming in, well, hopefully coming in shortly that Congress is looking at. We'll be keeping the track on that. Again, like I said, one of my accountants is in charge of kind of watching that and making sure if we have to apply for something, we can. I know the state has sent out some information as far as who could apply and what it would be for. Again, at this point, I don't see any change in our status until something might change in the direction from the federal side.
But we did get money from the state.
Thank you.
We did get a small amount, like $2,500 from the state library.
Okay.
So
Thank you so much.
most of that CARES money is flowing through other agencies and you apply for it, in our case, as a special district.
Okay, are there other questions for Dave regarding the finance report? Seeing none, I'll take a motion for approval.
So moved.
Can I get a second, please?
Second.
Okay, motion by Sharon and second by Ben. Any further questions? All right, please proceed with the roll call vote.
Ben,
Aye.
Marty,
Aye.
Paul,
Aye.
Kent,
Aye.
Sharon, I. We have 502.
All right, thank you. Approval of claims.
Thanks. Ken. Earlier today, hopefully you got an email from my accounting supervisor, Jill Knoll, and we wanted to start sending out the claims and at least the high dollar check, because we were talking that unless you're here, you wouldn't see this packet that gets put in like you would on the claims of the 10th. So hopefully you got that. The claims today are Not a huge amount, the usual. The only thing, the largest one is a 54,000 for Indiana and Michigan Power, a typical one. And then payrolls. So unless there's any questions on those, we can put it up for approval.
I move we approve.
Second,
Marty with the motion and Ben as a second. Any further clarification or questions on the claims? All right, please proceed with the vote.
Kent,
Aye.
Ben,
aye.
Paul,
Aye.
Marty,
Aye.
and Sharon, I. 502.
All right, thank you. Adoption of the ordinance of appropriations and tax rates.
All right, thank you, Kent.
Yep.
Again, this is what I mentioned in my report earlier. This is the official form to be filed with the state, and as you know, your packet contains a copy of that. We're adopting a budget for the general fund of $33,839,611, and then the debt service fund $4,686,000. Again, as far as the general fund, that's the official budget that will be used to set rates and levies. That is the gross amount, but we will be setting our internal budget, of course, with the tax caps involved with that. And we're expecting about a 2.7 million uncollected figure for that. And that's what our internal budget will be set at. The debt service, of course, this is the last year for the bond issue items. And that is about 2/3 of this year's, which was about 6.6 million. So that will go down. Taxpayers will see a decrease from the library side, at least by about 1/3 on the debt service. And that, of course, that amount is set by the amortization schedule. So really not a whole lot more to say about these. Assuming approval, I'll file these in Gateway. They have to be filed with the state within 4 days. I'll probably file them tomorrow. And then all of that will be on the Gateway portal for review, and the state then can do their review, hopefully before December 31st, but they have a deadline of December 31st to pass and issue a budget order. Yeah, as far as, no, we will record your vote on, as you can see this, we record your vote, and then I'll put your names down as voting through a virtual vote, which is still allowed at this point. We're still under that, health emergency, so we're allowed to do that.
Yep. All right, is there a motion for approval?
So move.
Second.
Okay, motion by Ben. I'll give the second to Sharon. All right, are there any further questions or clarifications? Seeing none, please proceed with the vote.
Kent,
Aye.
Ben,
Aye.
Sharon is an I. Paul,
Aye.
Martin.
Aye.
All right, that's 502.
Okay. All right, approval of the policy on computer use and internet access.
Yeah, so each year we bring to you our computer resources and internet acceptable use policy for review. And we need to file this in order to get our E-rate discounts, but also we file it with the state library. We have a consultant that advises us on changes in requirements, and they have been added to this document. And then sections that had been largely procedural have been removed because they're not needed in the policy, and they live in the procedure which staff have. So Kim Quintrell is here to answer any questions if you have them, but this is something we do each year.
I would move the passage of the computer resources and internet policy, use policy.
Second.
Okay, motion by Ben and second by Marty. Any further questions for Denise on this?
I think the second was by Paul, by the way.
Oh, I'm sorry, Paul. Sorry.
That's all right.
Second by Paul. Any other questions?
I just have one question. I was quickly trying to look over it, so I may have missed it. The library computer policy, I see that we've scratched out the use for suspended accounts. Did we address that somewhere else?
Yes, that's been moved to our procedure, our staff procedure. And it's,
Is that where the public would be able to know about it? If
yes, it's in
they-
the, yeah, if they want to, it's on the website. If
Uh-huh.
they want to register to use a computer using PC reservation, that's where that information is.
Okay, okay. That's all I wanted to make sure.
Okay,
Thank you.
sure.
All
Yeah,
right.
for those watching who might not know where that's out, if you go to the About ACPL, at the very bottom of the website, there's a tab for, that goes to it, and there's a tab for policies and procedures right on that as well. As well as the board tab that's on there that shows where our agendas and minutes and things along those lines are as well. So, all right,
Roll call.
roll call, please.
Kent,
Aye.
Ben,
Aye.
Paul,
Aye.
Marty,
Aye.
and Sharon is an aye. It's 502.
Right. This next item is the bylaw review. So annually,
Okay, so we're going to take a 5-minute pause.
okay,
Yeah, he has to read.
can you pause the live stream and stuff? Okay, so we're going to take a 5-minute pause right now because we have a technical issue. We'll be back in a few minutes.
She knows the magic number to bypass the.
All right, board members, if you could please make sure your cameras are on again, that'd be great. There you are. All right, just to ensure consistency here, I'd like to do a roll call attendance call again real quick, just to make sure that we have that recorded after the disconnection.
Sure. I'll start knowing that you are here in the room, Kent
I am.
and Ben,
Here.
and I'm here, Sharon and Paul
Yes, I'm here.
and Martin,
I am here.
Marty. Gloria, have you joined us? And Jim.
Nope, I think they're both.
Still have the same 5 present and 2 absent.
Okay, thank you. Apologize for that delay. We had a computer randomly restart in the middle of everything, and so we were losing connection. So thank you for your patience. All right, we were moving into the bylaw review conversation. It's been brought to my attention that annually, obviously, it's a good idea for us to review our bylaws. There are some suggested changes and some things along those lines, but I would like to have a couple board members that would just be willing to work with Denise on this for the bylaw review. This afternoon, I did email Gloria and ask her, and Gloria is willing to be a part of that group. Is there one more volunteer who would be willing to work with Gloria and Denise on the bylaw review?
I'll be happy to if I could do it by Zoom.
Yes.
Yep, Denise said that'd be great. So, all right, thank you. Ben and Gloria will work with Denise to do that, and then they'll bring any changes back either to the, I think our goal is the December board meeting, I believe, to adopt if there's changes that need to be done there. So, all right, thank you all for that. All right, let's move forward to the adoption of the schedule of holidays and closings for 2021.
Okay, so this isn't much different than what you normally see, but I will say that for the holiday weekend of Christmas, where we have added Sunday, December 26th as a closed and unpaid day, that means that staff who normally work on the Sunday would adjust their schedule for that work week to accommodate the lost hours or take leave, vacation time. So that's the only difference. And we're doing that because the rest of the staff are out and it would be only main library staff working on a Sunday, some event staff, maintenance and so on, and security.
All right, is there a motion for approval?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion from Ben and a second from Marty. Any further questions or clarification? All right, Sharon, please proceed with the vote.
Kent,
Aye.
Ben,
Aye.
Sharon, I, Paul,
Aye.
Marty,
Aye.
502, Mr. President.
All right, thank you. All right, now for the adoption of the 2021 board meeting schedule.
So, oh, did you want to?
Go ahead.
This is, we really wanted to just lock down the dates for the board meeting. We've placed all the board meetings at Maine. We're making the assumption, at least for the beginning of the year, that we will continue with these hybrid meetings, in person and virtual. The board can always change the location later in the year if things loosen up and you want to actually have the meetings at branches.
All right, great. Thank you, Denise. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
So moved. I do have a question.
Second.
All right, I believe Paul might have made the motion first, if I heard that correctly, and then I'll give Ben the second. So Sharon, please proceed with your question.
Denise, if we do continue the virtual world, is there a way that the branch managers would be able to join us to give updates on their branches like they did when we were in their branches?
That's a great idea. We can certainly do that. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
I'll do the roll call vote if you're ready.
I believe we are. Good suggestion, by the way.
Okay. Kent,
Aye.
Ben,
Aye.
Sharon is an aye, Paul,
Aye.
Marty,
Aye.
502.
All right, thank you. All right, next is the adoption of the procedures for the trustees at email. If you remember from the last meeting, we had a brief conversation around just maybe firming up a procedure and process for the emails that come into trustees. So since the last meeting, our IT department has set it up. So anybody who emails that, that email address, all of the board members are instantly copied on that email. So we have that forwarded and I believe that's working. We received another one today. Is anybody else having issues or anything? Or you're all receiving them? And we'll continue to check on
Today's,
that.
yeah.
Okay. So, so I've been having some conversations with Denise. She just kind of captured a little bit of what was discussed and brought forward this process or procedure rather for receiving those emails. You would have noted if you reviewed it that on step 3, there was a blank space for the number of days to where any inquiries requiring staff support would be identified and then forwarded to the appropriate library personnel to answer. And I just had a conversation with Denise a little bit ago around putting 3 days in that blank space so that we'd have 3 days to identify it. And then that would involve, so that up to 3 days to identify it, and then we'd have additional time. The other piece that we had kind of talked about overall response times for an email being received. And At the last meeting, I had kind of suggested maybe 1 week. However, as I thought about it more, I suggested to Denise, I think 2 weeks is more adequate from the standpoint of making sure staff have enough time and board members have enough time to review any answers that are also being put together when we have staff input on that end of it. And then the last piece under step number 5, it talks about a board member actually responding to each email. And I said, I think for consistency purposes, it would be better from, we're obviously reviewing all the responses and answers like we have been up until now, but the actual process of putting it in the email and sending it back, I would like to put back to the director's executive assistant to make sure that we can be consistent in that. And as it indicates on here, the trustees at acpl.info would be copied on that in the CC. So then all board members would receive the final response when it went back to the patron. So those were my suggested edits, changes, additions. As you all reviewed it, do you have anything to offer on this?
On item 5, a designated board, which you've changed to the executive assistant, would it make any sense to have that circulated to the trustees in draft form before it's sent out?
I believe that we are going to have the board. Yeah, I guess we do need another step for final review. At one point, Ben, we had talked about that. Maybe the final review would be done by the executive committee of the board or the officers, not the executive committee because we don't have that, but maybe the officers review it. I guess it's a question of, does every board member, you're giving input, you're going to see the draft. I guess I'm kind of talking in circles here. Do you want to put a step in there that the draft is sent back out to all board members for review?
That would be my preference. Okay.
And I would suggest we add into it, basically send out and we have 1-2 days to say something, otherwise it's presumed we accept, we're fine with it.
Okay.
Good point, Marty. Good point.
Do we want to make that 48 hours or 2 days?
That's fine. Whatever,
Is that
something
time
reasonable.
period? We have consensus on that?
Yeah.
Okay. No, that's a good point to add in there in that step.
Can you make it 48-hour business days?
Yes. Yeah, I think everything else indicated it was a Monday through Friday and the number of days. Obviously recognizing that piece. Are there other questions or changes to consider? All right. If not, I'll take a motion for approval of the adoption procedures for emails sent to the trustees at acpl.info email.
I'll make a motion with changes.
I'll second it as amended.
Okay, first by Sharon, second by Ben. Any further discussion? All right, please proceed with the vote.
Marty,
Aye.
Paul,
Aye.
Ben,
Aye.
Kent,
Aye.
Sharon, I. 502.
All right, thank you. All right, moving on to committee reports. The Finance and Personnel Committee met recently. I believe we'll have that. I don't know, is it Denise or Dave, or I'm not sure who's maybe given a.
Well,
Yeah.
I'll give it to Dave.
Well, yeah, in your packet
It's my
are,
first one, so.
yeah, in your packet are the, I'm on, okay, good. There's the summary minutes from that. And as it says in there, the main topics, of course, were the budget, which we just passed, and then the proposals for the various compensation and benefit programs. And that portion of it will be taken or brought to you in November for passage. We're investigating a few of the items that were brought up in that meeting regarding the insurance coverage possibilities and other items. But that was last Friday, and I think we captured most of everything in here. But I'd be happy, or Kendra's here, or Denise, we were all at the meeting, if there are other questions that other board members who hadn't attended might have.
All right, any questions for that committee? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to the Director Search Committee.
The Director Search Committee has thus far received, let me get my paperwork on this. We have over 40 individuals that have self-identified as interested in the process. And of those, you'll recall that when Jo Beth shared with us how they proceed, they don't consider the 40 as applicants unless they request and fill out a resume form and an appropriate questionnaire. So of the 40 thus far, 9 have responded in toto. That doesn't mean that all 9 or any of the 9 are qualified according to the parameters, but it does mean that they've gone the second level. The search itself will close November 22nd, and by that time, we should have quite a few more inquiries. And according to Jo Beth, based on our posture, we should probably have another 20 or more candidates that are qualified. So, and that's when the gradation and the interview questions from their side begins, which will winnow it down for our search committee to interview probably 10, 15 or so, to cut that down to present to the board 3 or 4, 2, 3 or 4, and move on. The process continues. Our survey, as I mentioned, I think at last meeting, from the patrons base, it's not identified who the patrons are because it went to the search group, but we received nearly 900 individual responses, and about half of the staff, full-time staff, responded as to the qualifications they wish to see in the new director. So it's moving along.
All right, any questions for Ben? All right, thank you, Ben, for that report and for that committee and your work. All right, Capital Projects Committee, Marty.
All right. Everyone, you got in the email today, probably, I think around 11:40, Sarah sent out to you some meeting notes. Also provided to you earlier a spreadsheet that the library staff had prepared, which gave a summary of a great amount of detail regarding a capital projects plan for 2020 through 2025. There is a lot more detail to it than that, a lot more Excel spreadsheets, but we didn't want to send all of it out to you at once, but that is certainly available. If anybody wants it, just contact Dave and he can send that off to you. Committee is myself, Ben, and Kent. We also reviewed a facility planning and design guide, 36-page document that the staff has prepared essentially for use to present to architects and other people doing any changes to the building. So they have kind of a design guide to go through as they do it. It's also a great amount of detail. And again, happy to send that to you if you want to take a look at it. The status or the plan that we sent out is essentially a status quo budget and plan. I think Dave can talk more about it, but it's really things that we think are going to have to be done over the next few years, no matter really no choices. These are just things that are going to have to be done, just as given the age of various materials and things that we have to do with the library system. As we talked more, you can see from our meeting notes, we went through a lot of things during the committee meeting. One of the things that kind of came out to us is that we've decided we are going to ask the staff to move forward to prepare an RFP for a full facility master plan. What that would do is incorporate elements of what we've already prepared over the last few years, but it's a full look at the system, including closures, expansion, possible new buildings, possibility of branches changing, any way we can think of to basically the best way, a creative way to deliver services to everyone in Allen County and from 2021 and beyond. So I think probably Denise and Dave and Kim can talk more about what that process would be. Obviously, we wouldn't be accepting anything. The whole board would need to vet it. But what we are looking for is to get out there request for proposal, see what a cost would be to prepare and give us something like that. With thought being, get the request out there by mid-November. Hope to get proposals. I believe we were talking by year end. So Denise, Dave, or Kim, do you want to speak on that a little bit?
Kim and Dave and I are going to meet next week to start working on a draft RFP with the goal of getting that out hopefully by the beginning of November. We need to have it out for probably 30 days to get enough bids. So we hope to have something back to the board in December.
Denise, can you kind of talk about, and Marty alluded to it just a little bit, but can you kind of talk about the gap that we're kind of looking for them to fill and the pieces we have versus the gap and what we're looking at there?
Yeah, so the work that we've done is largely around if we were to maintain all of our existing buildings and adjust them as needed to address current service levels and what we are projecting as future service levels, what would that take? So the pricing that is in the facility dude study, which you all saw a couple of years ago, that has an inflation factor built into it. So we can look, if we push a project down the road a few years, that spreadsheet tells us what that inflated cost will be based on the original analysis. So we have good data on end of life equipment and sort of the normal wear and tear. That's, painting, roofs, parking lots, HVAC, those kinds of things. It also includes flooring and things like that. But what it doesn't take into consideration is improvements in buildings. It's just, if we kept a building the way it is and just replaced the flooring, what would that cost to us? The guideline is really a design guideline developed for architects and designers to come in and say, this is the quality of material that we expect. This is when we look at a programming space, this is what we want to be able to do in that space. So it's designers use that to determine what kind of furniture that they're going to recommend, carpet, floorings, fabric, those kinds of things. The gap is we don't have projections of growth of the community and what the needs might be. We also don't have any detail around demographics of population change and how our buildings have to adjust to that programmatically. So for instance, we know in the county that individuals over 65, that population number is growing and will continue to grow. So folks in that age category are deciding to retire in place. Are our buildings equipped to manage that adjustment in the population as we move forward? The other is just around the demographic changes. And we had McKibben last year look at DuPont in the Northwest Corridor to understand whether that facility could manage the increased population. And so what we received from McKibben was the demographic analysis, but what we need is to connect that to what kind of facility do we now need for that. Kim is on the call, so I'm going to hand it off to Kim to elaborate a bit more about the difference between the work we've done and what a full facility master plan is for us.
Wanted to address an additional gap that I think is critical that we need.
Kim, can you speak up?
Yeah, I want to address a critical gap that we have not yet broached, and it's the community involvement piece. So we really need to take everything that we've gathered so far, put that in one cohesive plan, gather additional information as Denise has described, and we need to put some elements out to the community to get feedback to make the best decisions possible. So that's a critical piece of a facilities master plan that we need to address, pretty quickly.
Okay.
And we'd be looking for, and that's what we need, an outside entity to do for us, an architectural firm with designers to actually do that evaluation for us.
At this point, I don't know that we have any requirement. I think the committee's asked them to move forward with the request for proposal. So we don't really have any action at this point, I think, for the full board to take.
Any other questions for the committee? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to the report of the interim director.
Okay, so you have my monthly report. You also have the detailed manager's report, and you have the statistics, the monthly statistics, and the monthly weeding report. I just want to call out, in the interest of time, I just want to call out a couple of things from my interim report. And the first is the amnesty program. I just want to thank the board for allowing us to do that, because the goodwill that it presented to the community is quite extraordinary. We heard repeatedly from staff how grateful people were that they could bring, long overdue items back and have those fees waived. It was really important to the community. So overall, we had nearly 20,000 items returned where fines and fees were waived. And of those, about 1,000 we thought were lost. So it was good to get those back. So I think it was a win-win. And the number may not seem like a lot of items, but imagine a book cart with 3 shelves. We would have 16 book carts filled with material that was returned, and fines and fees were waived for customers. So it's pretty significant. Something that I want to call out from the monthly statistics, and we've had a couple of months of virtual programming, and if you look at those numbers, what was kind of fascinating to me is our community has really engaged with the virtual programming. We're doing far less programming than we did last year this time or the year before, but the volume of participation is quite high. So I think that really attests to how staff have pivoted to do virtual programming, make it engaging for the community. And it also speaks to the fact that this is something that will be continuing for a while, even as we start to look at the possibility, this isn't the week to raise this, but in-person programming. With COVID numbers rising, clearly that's not an option for us at the moment, but it is something that we're going to continue to look at to see how we can move in that direction. Something else that we had worked on was getting feedback from the community about curbside service hours and in-person programming. We continue to hear from the community that they're not ready to come back into our buildings yet for programming, but we've had over 3,000 responses to that survey. Public services staff are analyzing that, and we'll be making decisions around how they're going to apply that to modify our curbside service as we move into colder weather, and also be thinking about an additional survey to drill down for the community that does use our virtual programming and are thinking about in-person programming. How can we deliver programs that are topically aligned with what they want so we can meet their needs? So we'll be doing another survey of the community around that. You also have the manager's update. The report seems to get larger each month. So I really hope that you find this valuable. Staff really enjoy doing these reports. And I think, it's a great opportunity for them to showcase what they're doing and what's important to them.
Denise, on that subject, I continue to be impressed on how the manager's update has evolved into quite a nice document in and of itself. And I wonder the feasibility of posting it on our website. I mean, it's rich with data and programming and quality of library life. If it's physically possible to do that, I think it would offer our patrons a tremendous opportunity to see the insight that goes on within the 4 walls.
We could do that. We need to do some editing because staff are named in it. We do share the report. So tomorrow, my Friday note will be this document, plus my interim report, and it'll go to all staff. We could certainly look at scrubbing this a little bit to get staff names out, but yeah, we could look at an abbreviated version of this and putting it on the website. Absolutely.
Thanks.
Sure.
And I do like, I mean, to your point, Denise, I do love the fact that this is the opportunity for those branch managers and those other leaders to share right directly with the board what they're working on, what's there. So I appreciate that part too. So I don't want to your point, lose
Right.
any of that value back to the board because I think it's there. So, but a good suggestion, Ben, on that front.
Finally, we did our first town hall with staff back in September, and HR did a survey of staff. Senior staff are going to be reviewing those results next week and making some decisions about the topics that staff want to hear from us about and plan the next town hall. I don't have a date for that yet because some staff said they wanted them to be quarterly, others thought the monthly would be fine. So we just have to agree on what makes the most sense based on that feedback. So we'll be working on that next week and determining when the next town hall will be with staff. One item that was brought to my attention by Pete and Dave is in a prior meeting, board meeting, the board was asked to think about appointments for the building corporation board. We have a vacancy in the term of Betty Stein since her decease, and we need to reappoint someone. We need to reappoint and appoint for that vacancy. And we need to do it by the end of the year. So Pete, I guess over to you with any specifics on that.
Yeah, thanks, Denise. Yeah, we should do that. We talked about that a few months ago. And we have annual meetings of the Building Corporation Board in the very least. And when there is more activity, such as a bond project, then they become more active and they meet more often. So it's just a reminder to be thinking about that, to come up with a name to fill a vacancy and to consider the reappointment of the 4 existing members.
And I'll ask all board members if you can think about that. If you have suggestions of people, if you could please just forward those to me, and then I'll figure out what our process is going to be for determining that appointment on that end of it. But if you could get those to me, that'd be appreciated. But any input's great.
If you could, Pete, give a thumbnail overview of what the position entails. I know you said maybe at least once a year, but when building projects more, it may become more frequent. But if a line or two, so it would help us focus in on who might be the right person for that, for the community.
Well, we always look for someone who has a passion for the library and its operations. The building corporation at times has owned real estate, and that's been the primary function. As we're looking ahead to paying off the existing bond financing, there was a thought that we might be able to do away with the corporation. But as we're looking now to capital projects and the possibility of purchasing more real estate for new branches, possibility, we thought, let's just keep this building corporation alive, and there may be a need for it in the future.
All right, any further questions on that? All right, great.
Just one last thing. We had lots of technical difficulties with our meeting last month, and our event staff have ordered some new equipment. Not all of it is in. There's been some improvement even with this meeting, and hopefully by the next meeting, we'll have the new microphones delivered and installed. That's it. Unless there are questions about if there are questions about my written report, I'd be happy to answer them, but those are the highlights.
Any other questions?
I do have a question, just curiosity. Has there been a survey or report or a gathering of data to determine how our Welch outlet has been doing radio station? Has it increased through the COVID? Have our listeners grown? Do we know?
Sorry, I was looking at those numbers just earlier in the week, and I'm trying to conjure the spreadsheet in my head. Yes, there is increased volume, both with Welt Radio and, although Norm's in the room, so I could maybe ask him. There has been an increase in the amount of programming and the number of hours. So we're actually back to we're actually higher than we're higher than we were even pre-COVID in both the number of program hours and the number of programs that they broadcast both on cable TV and with Welt Radio.
I'm starting to see the Welt logo name in more and more spaces, which means that it's really picking up. So I think that's really good. I just wondered how those numbers were faring out. I'm seeing that as much, maybe I'm traveling in different circles, but I'm seeing it more than I've ever seen it before, which is kudos to you guys and the team for the work they do there.
Yeah, and kind of coupling on that too. I mean, I do appreciate, I know we had a few snafus last month, but we appreciate all of the continued improvement on these meetings and the technology and coordination you all bring. As I look around the room, there's just a lot of that. In addition, I also want to, I should have said this back during the capital projects, but the staff have done an excellent job with this new design guide as we look at capital projects. I think it's just an excellent piece that I think not only guides obviously this capital work, but continuing ongoing capital work. And it just really gives some good guidance to people as they look at it to say, you know, if this is a children's space, these are things that need to be in a children's space, and this is what it needs to look like and feel like. And I just think it's a wonderful document. So, you know, congrats to all of you working on that, and good work. All right. Moving into other business. Is there any other business to bring forward at this time? Seeing none, I'll move on to public comment. This is now time for public comment. Is there anybody present in the room who would like to make a public comment? I am not seeing any movement. So at this moment, we do not have any public comment. We continue to encourage people, especially those watching, to send any comments or things to the trustees at trustees@acpl.info. Again, trustees@acpl.info. You now know the process we use to answer those emails. So we definitely want to get timely information out to all of our patrons and anybody who has a question. So at this time, if there are no other items to come forward, I would like to have a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Sharon, second by Ben. I think we'll just do a simple aye, nay vote for this one. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Excellent. We'll see you next month. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, everyone.